Hello, Year 5, Miss Warren here. I hope you're well and welcome to your Thursday lesson for guided reading. Now, today we're going to be looking at a new piece of text, still based around life and space, but there's going to be a little bit more detail and maybe a new section added as well. So let's get into it.
Okay, welcome to your fourth session for guided reading. Like I said before, we're going to be using the skill focus of Explain today, but using a slightly different text all about living in space. So this is the starter task. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to watch a short clip. How do you feel when you watch it? What words could you use to describe the clip? And where could this place be? So it's only a short clip, and I just want you to think about those three questions. What I would like you to do first is I want you to write those questions down so when the clip comes on, you are ready to answer them. So pause the video here, write those questions down, and then once you're ready, we're going to come back and we're going to watch the short clip. Okay, let's watch the video now. Okay, so wasn't that clip fantastic? So your answers for this are going to be all completely different, which is absolutely fine. So I'm not really going to go through these questions, but I want you to send them to the Year 5 email. I want to see how you felt when you watch it, the words you've used to describe it, and where this place could be. Okay, let's move on. So we're now going to look at another non-fiction text. Like I said, it's all to do with living in space still. Any new words you need to write down and define. And as I read this text, think about the similarities between this text and the text we've already looked at this week. Okay, let's get into it. Living in space. Weightlessness is the strangest thing about living in space. Actions that were impossible on Earth suddenly become easy. Astronauts can turn effortless somersaults in midair and can even lift giant satellites over their heads. But zero gravity can make life difficult. When a crew member needs to shave, he must vacuum up the whiskers before they start floating around. To stay in one place, astronauts must secure themselves in footholds. They also have to change the way they eat, drink, sleep, and use the toilet. At first, many crew members suffer from a space sickness, but after several days their bodies adapt. Sleeping on the wall. There is no up or down in space, so astronauts can sleep on the wall or on the ceiling. Some people use bunks while others attach sleeping bags to the wall, which is shown on the right, so that they don't float away. There is no normal day and night in space, so sleeping astronauts have to wear eye shades. Ready meals. Space crews eat 3 meals a day. They can choose from more than 70 hot and cold meals and several drinks. Each person's food is marked with a coloured dot. Many foods, such as sausages, are similar to those found in supermarkets. Others need to be mixed with hot water. Snacks and sweets are also available. All the menus are planned before the mission, so they have drinks, fruit and nuts, cereals, sweet and sour beef. Floating free. Meal times can be crowded on the space shuttle's mid-deck, which is the picture on the left-hand side. Staying in one place is a problem, but astronauts are happy to eat in any position. Packets of food are stuck to lockers to prevent them from floating away. Because liquids won't stay in a cup, drinks come in plastic packets with straws. So there you have a drinking straw. When drinks escape from their containers, they float around as giant bubbles, which is shown in the picture in the middle. And astronauts wear normal clothes inside the space shuttle. Keeping in shape. With no gravity to push against, muscles and bones become weak. Astronauts fight this by exercising every day. They may walk on a treadmill, use a rowing machine, or pedal on a stationary bicycle, which is on the left-hand side again. Most people grow about 2 inches or 5 centimetres during their time in space because zero gravity allows their spines to stretch. Suction toilet. Toilets in space work like vacuum cleaners. Flowing air sucks waste into a container. On the Mir space station, the waste fluids are recycled into drinking water. On early space missions, the crew simply used trash bags or wore diaper-like underwear. Spacewalking. A trip outside a spacecraft is called a spacewalk. During a spacewalk, the astronaut must wear a spacesuit to protect him from the airless vacuum of space. Without the suit, his blood would boil and he would die in seconds. Spacesuits are like mini spacecrafts, with their own power, oxygen and cooling systems. Shuttle astronauts can also wear special backpacks that allow them to fly around freely. So we have the backpack is like a flying armchair that allows the astronaut to move through space. We have a TV camera on this suit. Inside the helmet is a microphone and headphones for talking to other astronauts. The spacesuit has a special air to keep pressure on the astronaut's body. Okay, so that is the text, and now we're going to go on some tricky words that I've identified through the text. So let's read these tricky words. It's going to be my turn, and it's going to be your turn afterwards. Somersaults, vacuum, containers, prevent, and stationary. And what is a root word in the word recycled? That's right, it is the word recycle with the ed ending at the end. And what spelling rule can you see in the word station? Pause the video here for me. That's right, it is the shen ending, the tion ending. Now let's go into say, shout, whisper, clap, act, and then use in a sentence. So it's going to be my turn, and then I want you to repeat after me. Somersaults, vacuum, stationary, containers, prevent, shouting it, somersaults, vacuum, stationary, containers, prevent. Now we're going to whisper it. Somersaults, vacuum, stationary, containers, prevent. And now we're going to clap it. Remember, clapping is the syllables in the word. Somersaults, vacuum, stationary, containers, prevent. Obviously you can't see me acting it. If you want to show me your acting skills through the Year 5 email with photos, that'd be fantastic. So before we use them in a sentence, what I want you to do first is define them and then use them in a sentence. And tomorrow you can check through your sentences and definitions because I'll put my own up. So now I want you to pause the video here, define them, and then write these words in a sentence. Okay, welcome back. Hope you've had some time to write those sentences down and definitions. And now we're going to go on to the skill focus of explain. And let's recap again. We're going to be looking at the skill of explain. What are the key skills? Can you pause the video here and remember what the key skills of explain are? Okay, welcome back. Hope you remember what the key skills of explain questions are, and it's to make your point about the text and then justify your answers with evidence and examples. So let's have a look at a few questions together. So it's going to be my turn first. Explain why it is important for astronauts to keep in shape. So let's have a reread of this text again. So keeping in shape. With no gravity to push against, muscles and bones become weak. So muscles and bones become weak is going to be my first point. Astronauts fight this by exercising every day. They may walk on a treadmill or use a rowing machine or pedal on a stationary bicycle. Most people grow about 2 inches, 5 centimetres during the time and space because of zero gravity allows their spines to stretch. Now that last bit isn't really important for why astronauts need to keep in shape, but obviously the reason why it's important is because their bones and muscles become weak. This is going to be my answer. So astronauts keep in shape and exercise because muscles and bones can become weak. So it's important they fight this by exercising every day. You can see that I've got quote marks around fight this by exercising every day because that is a direct quote from the text. Now let's have a look at one together. Explain what happened to the waste on the Mir space station. So let's have a read of the text again. Suction toilet. Toilets in space work like vacuum cleaners. Flowing air sucks waste into a container. On the Mir space station, the waste fluids are recycled into drinking water. So now I can stop there because I know I'm looking for the Mir space station. So we're looking at the whole text. So the Mir space station, what that's doing, and what the waste or how the waste is contained. Think about that word as well. So pause the video here and have a think about that question, and I wonder if you can try and answer it for me. Okay, welcome back. Hope you've had some time to answer that question, and here is my answer. So, the waste went into a container and then fluids were recycled into drinking water because flowing air sucks waste into a container, and then within the container, the fluids are then recycled into drinking water. So obviously I know that the waste needs to be taken somewhere. It can't just stay in the toilet. It needs to be taken somewhere, so it's taken into a container, and the fluids are then recycled into drinking water. You could quite simply just say, on the Mir space station, the fluids were recycled into drinking water. That would also make sense as well. So we're now going to move on to a question I want you to do independently first, and obviously you can come back to check the answer. So I'm going to read the question out to you, or the questions, there's 2 of them here, and then I want you to read the text yourself and then answer the question for me, and then once you've finished, check back with your answers. So the first one is explain what would happen to an astronaut not wearing a spacesuit. So in this text, what would happen to an astronaut not wearing a spacesuit on a spacewalk? Then, can you also explain what features spacesuits have in them? And it talks about the features of a spacesuit. So pause the video here and answer those 2 questions for me. Okay, hope you've had some time to write down an answer. Now it's time to check through. So this is my answer. I've said, if astronauts were not wearing a spacesuit, their blood would boil and would die in seconds. That really emphasises how important it is to wear a spacesuit when on a spacewalk. Now, certain features in a spacesuit are they contain their own power, they have oxygen, a cooling system, and the backpack allows them to fly around freely. Now, not all spacesuits have backpacks, but obviously some of them do, and that's another feature that could be added to them. Okay, hope you've answered that question correctly, and now it's time for me to carry on reading Cosmic.
Okay, so we're going to carry on reading Cosmic. Dr. Drax was waiting for us with the other kids and dads. She asked if we were ready to see the biggest thrill ride in the world ever. I said yes! Slightly too loudly and too excited to be truly dadly. Then let's go, said Dr. Drax. The Possibility Building is so big that sometimes there are proper rain clouds floating around inside of it. A room with its own weather. I can tell you all that now. But I didn't notice any of this at the time. I didn't notice it because I was too busy looking at Infinity Park's main attraction, the world's biggest thrill ride, the ride I've been waiting to see all this time. The rocket, in front of me and above me, way, way, way above me, because a rocket goes all the way past the interior clouds to the roof. And the reason this ride is called the rocket is that it is a rocket, a real rocket, a blue rocket, a massive rocket of the going to space kind. It was so massive that at first we couldn't tell it was a rocket. It looked like a wall of metal pipes and panels, and we couldn't take it in. We all looked up and then looked down, as there were a bunch of scanners trying to upload an image. Samson too seemed to have the fastest processor. It's a rocket, he said. Yes, Dr. Drax smiled. It's my rocket. How good is that sentence? It's my rocket. Like, it's my lunchbox or something. Of course, we've been making rockets here in China since Sven Jensing invented gunpowder in the year 1970. At first, they were used to fire arrows. They had names like Swarm of Bees or Fire Leaping Tigers, but my rocket has a different purpose. It's called the Infinite Possibility. And, she said, turning to the kids, I'm going to give it to you. I'd like you children to think of it as a present. From my generation to yours. I'm not going to ride in it, but you are. When you say ride in it, said Samson 1, do you mean ride in it to space? Yes, the biggest thrill ride of all time is a ride to space. I'm sorry to have been so secretive about this. It was only because it's a secret, and we want to keep it that way. Any questions? Monsieur Martinet says, you want to send our children to space? Just for a few hours. The rocket will pop up into space to a simple little job and then pop down again. She made it sound like an elevator. As thrill rides go, it's the ultimate. Everyone agreed. Dr. Drax went on. Most thrill rides have a height requirement. This one will need a bit more. You'll have to pass the medicals and you'll need to train. We're going to be astronauts, said Samson 2. In fact, here in China, the word is tackinaut. Yes, you're all going to be tackeinauts, with parental permission, of course. All the kids looked around for their dad's permission. I even looked around for mine. Then I remembered that mine wasn't there. I was the dad this time. Dr. Drax turned to the children again and said, I call the rocket a present, but it's more a kind of apology, you see. I believe my generation has all but destroyed this pretty blue planet. I hope I'm wrong, but if I'm not, then the only hope for humankind might be for us to start again somewhere else. Just because we've destroyed the Earth, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. There are millions and millions of stars in the universe. There are probably even millions of planets like this one. Every bit as good as this one. It's just a matter of finding one. If we're going to do that, we're going to have to make some long journeys. Journeys that might take years. And if a journey is going to take years, you'd better have a young crew, so that they'll still be strong and useful when they arrive. And that's what the Infinity Park is all about. I want it to be a place that will inspire young people like you to want to work in space. In fact, if they come to the park, some of them will be able to go to space just for a little while. This is the prototype. You'll be the first children in space. Then she said, any questions? Florida's hand shot up. Does that mean we're going to be famous? She said. Maybe, but not yet. As I said, this mission is a secret. Our little secret. How famous? Well, World famous, I suppose. Maybe as long as everything goes to plan. Florida's bouncing on the balls of her feet with sheer happiness. She put her hand up again. Florida. I love this colour, said Florida, pointing at the rocket. What do you call it? I call it blue, said Dr. Drax. I think most people do. But there's blue and blue. It's a lovely shade. Perhaps we could call it rocket blue. Next question. The next question was from Samson too. Could we call it ballistic blue? Ballistic is the science of rockets, and ballistic blue has a nice alliterative quality. Very nice, said Dr. Drax. Next question. Hassan said, that's a lot of paint. Did the supplier offer you a good discount for placing such a large order? Does anyone have any questions that are not about the paintwork, said Dr. Drax. No one did. In that case, one of our engineers will now show the children around the rocket while we grown-ups get down to some paperwork. Rather a lot of forms to fill in for this trip, I'm afraid. Surprisingly difficult to get insured for a flight into space, even though this one is extremely safe, completely safe. Almost. You could see that Dr. Drax was disappointed. She thought the children sort of missed the point, going on about the paint like that. But that's what kids do when big things come up. We focus on little things, like the kids sleeping in the rocket now. They're not dreaming about planet Earth, they're dreaming about their own little bedrooms. I had a different reaction to the rocket. I wasn't interested in the paint. I had one thought, one big damp thought. Namely, I am not going to space. The children are having the thrill ride of the century, and we grown-ups are going to sit around and watch and maybe video them or something. Come along, children, smiled Dr. Drax, as the kids all climbed onto the escalator platform at the side of the rocket. I said, but we can see around the rocket too, can't we? I'm afraid not, smiled Dr. Drax. I want the children to get used to being together without their daddies. After all, they won't have their daddies in space. That's right, because I'm not going to space. Florida Kirby is going to space. That is exactly the wrong way around. It's supposed to be more fun being a grown-up. That's why I swapped being a kid for being a dad. What's the point in forfeiting your childhood if all you're going to get is filling in forms? I'm the space daddy. When I realised I'd gone all the way to the Gobi Desert just to watch Florida Kirby go into space, I felt like I died. Not died as in real life, but died as in a game, when you're running along nicely on level 40, having all sorts of level 40 type adventures, and beep, you're dead with no spare lives, and you've got to go right back to the beginning and go through all the boring bits all over again. While Florida and all the kids were looking around at a real rocket, we dads had to sit down and fill in forms. Forms full of questions about our children. I can't believe how much parents are supposed to know about their kids, like their date of birth, for instance. In fact, I was all right with that one because I still had Florida's passport, so I just copied her birthday out of that. Oh dear, said Dr. Drax. Here's a daddy who doesn't know his own daughter's birthday. I know Samson 2's birthday, said Samson 1, and one day the world will know it too. It will be a national holiday in our country. I do sometimes forget Max's, said Monsieur Martinet, but he's too well brought up to say so. The birthday question turned out to be an easy one. There were questions about vaccinations, allergies, childhood illnesses. I couldn't think of one childhood illness, except when Florida was talking about celebrities earlier. She mentioned chronic something. I thought if I wrote chronic, it would help me remember what the other word was. That was it, chronic obesity. Dr. Drax looked over my shoulder. She said, chronic obesity? Are you sure? Then luckily I remembered what obesity means. Fat. I crossed out obesity and put arthritis. It looked quite convincing written down. Dr. Drax sniffed quite hard, then took the form from me and looked at it. I see under vaccinations you've ticked yellow fever and malaria. I ticked quite a few on the safe side. Oh, and dengue fever. Has Florida travelled a lot? Yes, I think so. Think so? I mean, I think she has because she has. She's been to Florida, hence the name, and we all went to Enchantment Land in Stourport in year 6. I mean, when she was in year 6. Stourport in England? Yes, only you don't normally need vaccinations if you're travelling within England. Not normally, no, I said. But I say, why take the risk? You can't be too careful. That's a Digby family motto. After the paperwork, it got worse. We played golf. Golf! The other dads couldn't have been more excited if you'd given them invisibility cloaks. Golf, while Florida was looking around a rocket. Golf while she was getting ready to be a tachynaut. Golf. Oh, golf. If you think Monopoly is boring, you should try golf. If you were playing golf inside the World of Warcraft, what skills did you need? Running skills? No. Sword skills? No. Cunning? No. Wisdom? Are you joking? The object of the game is to put a ball in a hole. Tidying up skills, that's what you need. Tidying up skills and a lot of time on your hands. A game. I suppose it feels like a game if you are actually one of the undead. We pulled around this golf course in 2 electric buggies while they all talked about their averages and handicaps and told stories about times when they put their little balls in different holes. I taught Samson too to play golf some years ago, said Samson 1, as we lined up to take our first shots. Such a practical way to learn about the interaction of physical forces and so on. For instance, if I use a driver to tee off, a driver is one of those golf sticks for hitting the ball with. Apparently they've got different names, like wedge and iron and stuff. Anyway, Samson 1 teed off with a driver and explained how the parabola of the ball in flight was related to the swing of the driver as he hit the ball. I wasn't really listening. I just hit the ball as hard as I could. It flew down the grass and I shouted, yes! The others just stared at me. Monsieur Martinet said, why are you so happy? I hit loads further than him. I'm winning. Samson 1 laughed. But you've hit too far. It's gone past the hold and into the rough. I sort of assumed that the point of the game was to hit the ball as far as you could. I hadn't known about the holes. Extraordinary, said Monsieur Martinet, that one could reach adulthood without knowing how golf is played. I said, yeah, but do you know how World of Warcraft is played? I bet you don't. Monsieur Martinet sort of squinted and then said, golf is a game that teaches you many of the qualities needed for success. For instance, decision-making and attention to detail. Computer games, on the contrary, are for idiots. Or teenagers, said Andy Xandu. I realised I said the wrong thing. I tried to recover a bit of ground by saying, let's see if you do any better then. I'm not sure how dadly that sounded, to be honest. The others all got their ball onto the flat bit of the grass around the hole. I had to get mine out of the long grass. Dr. Drax came with me and told me I should chip the ball with a niblick. I was quite excited about that suggestion. I thought a niblick might be some slim pond-dwelling goblin, which is what it sounds like. Disappointingly, it's just another golf stick. It does work though. It knocked the ball straight up in the air and plopped down on the green bit. Well done, said Dr. Drax. There's no feeling on earth as satisfying as dropping the ball down just so like that. Maybe not on Earth. I bet there are some much better feelings in space, though. Yes, she said. You've certainly given your daughter a great opportunity. Yes, I've given Florida a great opportunity, and I've given myself a niblick. I'm going to stop there, and I shall see you tomorrow for our next guided reading lesson. Stay safe, everyone.